I racked my brain to find a topic for my next movie review because subsequent to BioWare shoveling that heap of streamlined horseshit known as Dragon Age 2 down my gullet, God knows I needed a brief respite from the game industry. See, every so often it has to be done to cleanse my mental palate and to wash away the sordid memories of the venal dreck I'm forced to play and review on a regular basis. So until now, I've tended to gravitate towards the types of crotch-thrusting, fist-pumping, rapid-fire action extravaganzas popularized by the advent of the 2 for $1 bin at Walmart. But not all movies are so charmingly misogynistic in their 1980s naivete. The fact of the matter is, modern films suck. They've sucked since the late 90s, and with each passing year, they somehow manage to plunge even further into the cavernous expanse of creative oblivion. Much like the modern video game industry, it's a conveyor belt of banality, eternally manufacturing and remanufacturing meaningless dreck whose sole purpose in occupying valuable space on this overcrowded planet is to sucker you into wasting your money on it. So what happens when these two worlds collide, you ask? Well, as much as I hate to do this to you, Rageaholics, the answer comes in the subject of today's review. I'd apologize for what I'm about to do to you, but for some reason you masochistic fucking weirdos have requested I review this movie more than any other film in existence today. So take your medicine and like it, bitch, because the subject of my 30th episode is none other than Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
The 1994 Street Fighter film was bad. It was really fucking bad, but you know what? It was well aware of the fact that it was a waste of celluloid and human energy, so it did its best to be a ridiculous comic book-style action film, and within that context, well, okay, it chomped dick in that context as well, but at least it was good for a laugh. Sure, it was so bad it actually killed Raul Julia, but this fucking movie, Birth of a Nation, is less of a cinematic embarrassment, and watching paint dry in slow-mo is at least twice as entertaining due to the inevitability of a Bob Vila cameo. I would love to have sat in on this pitch meeting. Hey, listen up, fucknuts. We're making a sequel to possibly the greatest video game adaptation abortion ever to be expelled from Capcom's swollen and inflamed anus. We're casting the skinny broad from Smallville as Chun-Li, the guy who can't sing for the Black Eyed Peas as Vega, and Neil McDonough, who hasn't been in a frame of a good film since he drunkenly tripped and fell into Star Trek First Contact as M. Bison. Oh, and while we're on the subject, yeah, M. Bison, he's now mysteriously Irish. Not semi-plausible Boondock Saints Irish, mind you. Hornswoggle, Leprechaun 2, They're After Me, Lucky Charms Irish. Chun-Li, as we all know, is a skinny, well-tanned, rich white girl who also happens to be really terrible at pretending she's playing the piano. She also somehow managed to grow out of being Asian. That's a neat trick. If only it worked in reverse, the entire cast of America's Greatest Otaku would be forced to develop a personality trait that doesn't revolve around poorly animated, badly written, pervy cartoons. One night, her stereotypical Chinese childhood is interrupted by the Asian people's single greatest natural enemy: foreigners.
You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice our love.
Chun's dad is holding his own when suddenly...
Ninjas!
M. Bison shows up with the most innately absurd Irish accent I've ever heard in my life in tow. This man's accent does more damage to the Gaelic people than the Battle of Dublin. Chun-Li's father is hauled off to McBison's salt mines, and Chun-Li's mom frantically charges at Balrog, only to be punched in the head and given cancer. I couldn't make this shit up. Balrog punches Chun-Li's mom and gives her brain cancer. The kids from American Pie, whose hairline is receding faster than a rabbi in the Gaza Strip, is actually the most seasoned and established actor present here. And can you blame any self-respecting actor for not wanting to be associated with this cinematic calamity? The script of this film is literature more damaging to the human condition than Mein Kampf. If I was an actor and this thespian abortion materialized in my mailbox, I'd unibomb the fucking Kinkos it was printed at. why is the douchey jock guy from American Pie palling around with Knockers McMillans over here exactly? Well, try not to vomit all over your computer monitor, but this high-foreheaded fucknut is supposed to be Charlie. Yes, that Charlie. But instead of exchanging flash kicks with Guile, this Charlie just stands around and hits on this massive memoried slutbag over here. Apparently this failed underwear model thinks her drama classes at the Learning Annex qualify her to act. I believe the technical term for that is the Spoonie effect. Chun-Li receives a note from a complete anonymous stranger subsequent to yet another poorly mimed piano recital. It's written in ancient Chinese, which is apparently a ton different from regular Chinese, so Chun does the responsible thing and travels to fucking Hong Kong to get it translated, because, you know, there aren't any Chinese professors at UC Berkeley that can translate the fucker for her. She learns from yet another mysterious stranger that she needs to meet the leader of the Order of the Web called Gen. Yes, that Gen, this time played by Liu Kang from the Mortal Kombat movies. But you can't just meet Gen, certainly not. That would mean moving the plot forward. Apparently Gen really hates landowners, so Chun-Li has to sell all of her possessions, become a hobo, and wander the streets of Hong Kong, and then one day, maybe Gen will feel like talking to her. No offense, but at this point, Gen is sounding like a bigger cock than McBison. All Bison did was abduct your dad and give your mom punch cancer. At least he left you the fucking house. Meanwhile, McBison is killing off all the other members of Shadow Lao. Why, you ask? Because he needs to turn Shadow Lao, the faceless, maleficent entity that pulls all the strings of every government the world over, into a fucking real estate company. If I shook my head any harder at this film's plot, I could mix vinaigrette in my mouth. Gen finally shows himself, likely after Chun-Li's already been forced to whore herself to half of Hong Kong so she doesn't starve to death. Thanks, asshole! He teaches her to fight, even though 5 minutes before they meet, she's already doing goddamn front flip kicks and shit. Then Gen drops the revelation of the century on her. M. Bison is a bad, bad man. Wow. Thanks for that, Jim, Gen. It never occurred to me that the cackling villain that sicked ninjas on my family might be a real jerk. It was a real blast eating out of trash cans and blowing trannies for nickels while you withheld that valuable information from me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a syphilis treatment to get to. Okay. To be fair, he also tells her that her dad is alive, and at some point he also teaches her how to throw bad CG at her enemies. Neat! But wait, there's more layers to the hideous ethnic stereotype that is M. Bison. Apparently, the reason he's a dick is because he actually physically removed his conscience from his body. How, you ask? By bringing his pregnant wife to some evil cave, laying her down on an ancient pedestal, ripping his unborn child from her belly, and transferring his conscience into the infant. So, wait. Prior to this transfer, this guy was capable of murdering his wife and transferring his last modicum of humanity into an innocent baby so that he can become an unholy vessel of evil, and yet his chief concern is that he has too much of a fucking conscience? And if the transfer was so goddamn effective, then why in blue hell did he spare his daughter afterward? That's right, the entire plot of this festering pile of regret predicates on the fact that McBison finally tracked his kid down and plans to kill her. If that was the game plan all along, then wouldn't she have been most vulnerable while you were actually in the process of violently ripping the helpless infant from her mother's womb? Well, would you lose her in a shopping mall somewhere? What the fuck? This plot has more holes than Pee Wee Herman's pockets, when suddenly...
Ninjas!
A pathetic, wig-bedecked monstrosity we're expected to believe is Vega crawls out of whatever auto-tuned talentless hack factory the Black Eyed Peas were manufactured in and gets wrecked faster than a Nick Hogan sports car. There's a consummate thespian for you, 1/4 of the absolute abortion of a Super Bowl halftime show rendition of Sweet Child of Mine. Here's a tip, Taboo. You want to get into acting? Act like your music doesn't chomp gangrenous festering chode first. For one thing, he sounds like the fucking Super Shredder. For another... fuck it, I don't need another. This movie is an inflamed cancerous cyst on the prostate of humanity. Meanwhile...
Rocket launcher!
Perhaps deciding that a cancer punch would be too on the nose, Balrog goes the subtle route and blows Gen the fuck up. Chun is briefly reunited with her pappy, but before she can broach the fact that they're the same fucking age, McBison snaps his neck and gives him a future career as a Pez dispenser. Rather than cancer punch this bitch in the hereafter, Balrog trusts 2 incompetent henchmen to do it in what has to be the most sound strategic decision since Sony decided to piss off the entire internet. You can guess how this one turns out. The waifishly thin Chun-Li somehow overpowers 2 paramilitary henchmen, and, you know, As absurd as this plot is, and believe me, it's goddamn ridiculous, somehow it's still more plausible than Resident Evil 5. Chun-Li is shot in the ensuing struggle and nearly bleeds out in an alley, at which point Gen reveals that he's been alive all along. Sweet! Too bad you didn't save my ass! After healing her wound with the ancient Chinese art of Adobe After Effects, they track McBison's McKid down, and while Gen tangles with Balrog...
You're as cold as ice.
Let off some steam, Bennett.
Chun-Li goes one-on-one with Ensign Hawk. Obvious and uninspired wirework abounds, but we all know how this one's gonna end. Chun fires a ball of fail at Bison, who goes down like a Kardashian on a douchebag. God damn! Remember that from the video game? You might say that was quite a twist. Oh, yes. Perhaps the saddest factoid surrounding this filmic failure is that Capcom can't even claim that it was Hollywood that dropped the ball here. Keiji Inafune, creator and designer on such classic Capcom franchises as Resident Evil, Mega Man X, Onimusha, Breath of Fire, and of course Street Fighter, was also the film's executive producer. Of course, mind you, this is the same asshat who saw fit to steer into the shit skid by producing the abortion that is Resident Evil 5, proof that, like the dark side of the Force, Capcom possesses only the power to destroy.
You know, there's a lesson to be learned here, Rageaholics. Incidentally, it's the same lesson we learned from Super Street Fighter 4, Bionic Commando, Marvel Capcom 3. I mean, Capcom wants your money, but they can't be bothered to create a high-quality product in return. How many god-awful animated Street Fighter movies are there, for Christ's sake? I mean, how many jerkily animated variations of the Ryu Sagat fight or Chun-Li's big flopping titties do we need exactly? But the Shoryuken fanboys, dwelling as they do fucking perpetually in the self-righteous ether, honestly convince themselves these games and movies were made for their enjoyment, rather than because Keiji Inafune needs a new fucking yacht. Well, bitches, denial is more than a shitty band that plays at Ozfest every year. I'm RazörFist. God fucking speed.